Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the History Channel, where I'm going to sit here and talk about tank history. Oh, yeah, this isn't the History Channel. This is my YouTube channel. Seems like the History Channel some days. But I am doing PvE Hardcore on Operation Banshee. I am platooned up with Harry. He's running his AMX 50. And I am running the Tiran 6.
Loader, heat.
We'll take a quick look over the tank here. And then I'll throw you the history, which is pretty much what the Armored Warfare section of my channel has been about. And it looks a lot like a T-62, and that's because it is. I'm going to get more information here about that here shortly. And take note of some of the stuff here. The one thing to point out is they've added a machine gun over the main gun, and the 12.7 millimeter Soviet gun has also been replaced by an M2. So they've gone to NATO guns on this tank.
We have to break their hold on this and teach them a harsh lesson.
But I'll talk about that a bit more in a bit. Ever since its birth, Israel has been at an almost constant state of war. Because of this, Israel has made a tradition of using captured enemy equipment. This includes tanks. The Tiran series would begin with the Tiran 4. The Tiran 4 would be a modified T-54. The next would be the Tiran 5, which was a heavily modified T-55. And the Tiran 5 would be the test bed for the Blazer explosive reactive armor package. The last of the Tiran 6 would be the Tiran... the last of the Tiran series was the Tiran 6. And it was a modified T-62, which is what you have here. The Tiran 6 was fitted with a laser rangefinder and thermal imaging sight for the gunner. The radios were replaced with US-made radios. The Tiran 6 would also feature Blazer explosive reactive armor. However, not all models I've seen had the explosive reactive armor package. Not many other modifications would take place on the captured T-62s. They would serve with Israel for a number of years until retired. Most of the surviving Tiran 6 tanks would be sold for export or converted into armor personnel carriers. And that's honestly about it, all I'm going to get into about the Tiran 6. The big problem is while I used 6 resources instead of my typical 3 to 4, depending upon the vehicle, none of the resources really seemed to agree with one another. Each one giving me different information. I even had some that even told me that the Tiran 6 had a 105 millimeter gun. Well, upon searching photographs of Tiran 6s in service with other countries, because these were sold off to other countries, and Tiran 6 tanks in museums in Israel, none of them had a 105 millimeter gun, and all of them had the Soviet 115 millimeter gun that would be featured on the T-62. Then even the next problem I had is not even all of them agreed on that the radios were replaced. Now, in all honesty, I'm pretty damn sure the radios were replaced, and I'll get into why, and that's mostly got to do with World War II. Germany captured a lot of Soviet vehicles during Operation Barbarossa and other operations that took place in the Soviet Union at the time. All those vehicles had their radios replaced. Mostly, I would think that would have to do with channel possibilities. You don't want to, have the enemy hear what you're saying and doing. The next thing is obviously, of all things, you want your crew using a radio that they are trained to use and maintain. Besides, of all the equipment in a tank, radio is actually pretty cheap. And this is not the only historical precedent. Even Russia, with the German tanks they captured, replaced the radios. It is a quite common thing for militaries to replace radios. The next problem I would have on doing the research for this vehicle was actually the optics being replaced and the thermal imaging gun sight. None of them seem to, well, most of them seem to agree on that, but only 4 out of the 6. Now, the reason I'm going to report that, yeah, the optics was replaced is because that's something Israel would do.
They hit us hard.
Another one of those things. When you look around, you find quite often optics are replaced in enemy captured vehicles. Some resources would also report that this thing actually had a digital ballistics computer put into it, but only 2 of the resources would actually agree to that. So this was actually a hard vehicle to do a lot of research on. That's why there's actually not a lot of information to really give. More or less, the most I can really give is how contradictory the resources were. Even as something as simple as how many of these vehicles were ever captured and modified, which these would be captured vehicles, mostly from Saudi Arabia, doesn't even agree on that, or how many of them, as I said, were fully modified to this standard of packaging. Actually, there's not even agreement on how many were turned into armored personnel carriers. Excuse me. How many of them were turned into armored personnel carriers, and how many of them were sold off. I'm not sure why there's so much information on this vehicle that contradicts itself in so many ways.
Enemy destroyed.
I guess about the only way you would really know about the vehicle is if you went to Israel and somehow got access to their archives telling you everything they've done with this vehicle. Now we're going to talk about it a bit here in Armored Warfare. This is a Tier 3 vehicle that leads to the show. You can find that replay also on my YouTube here. Both vehicles are actually pretty solid vehicles, the Tier 4 and the Tier 3. The Tier 3 here it's a brawler. Now, it feels a lot better than the T-62 at the same tier. Mostly has to do with its armor, but even the gunnery system, which you would think would be pretty much identical, feels actually improved. All in all, I think this is actually one of the more powerful Tier 3 main battle tanks outside of any of the premiums. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a good, if you want a Tier 3 main battle tank, I highly recommend it. Although, in all honesty, for the most part of this line, I recommend just about any tank out of this line, to be honest. But there we go. That's the end of the replay there. We got the W. Let's pull up the results. I did 11,155 damage. Spotted 12 enemy vehicles. Mostly has to do with my aggressive brawling playstyle here that I used with the vehicle. I destroyed 11 enemy vehicles and got myself a blue star. And I would be top for damage overall, even way out surpassing Harry with his AMX-50 and even our allied IS-7. Spotting, I'd be number 2 spot, but the amount of damage I did secured the blue star for me and an incredibly high amount of experience points. But anyway, folks, that is the end of the replay. I really wish I could give more information about the Tyrant 6. It's just so much information as contradicts itself. Depending upon what resource you look at is what you get. So basically, I just kind of went with what mostly agreed or what actually seemed legitimate, such as the gun replacement definitely does not seem legitimate. Even the Tyrant 6 here in the photograph, as you can tell if you look closely, has the 115 millimeter gun that the Soviets used. But anyway, folks, thank you very much for watching. I'd also like to give a shout out to everybody who's been keeping up with my YouTube channel. There's been a lot of content I've been putting out, and many of you have actually been coming to me and telling me, hey, I watched so-and-so video. I quite enjoyed it. Thank you very much for making it. Things of that nature. I do appreciate that feedback. That's why I keep doing these videos. But yeah, so once again, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the replay. Like the video if you enjoyed it. And yeah, give your comments below on what you think about the Tyrant 6. I think it's an excellent, as I said, an excellent Tier 3 main battle tank. But that's going to be it for this replay. Thank you again for watching.